recording. As you can see, I've added a few things since I sent out the agenda. So we'll just try to get going on it and make our way through as quickly as we can. If you have not signed into the chat, go ahead and put your name and library in chat and we'll get started. So the first thing I wanted to talk about, we have had a request from a library that as we are doing transit slips in media cases, that we would actually put them inside the case with the destination sticking out so that it could be seen, rather than between the plastic cover and the paper insert that tells about the item. So what does everybody think? Is there, does anybody have a problem with doing that?
Is there, has there been a problem with people seeing the destination through the plastic cover?
No. Their problem seems to be that by the time, I have the feeling that this is a library that doesn't get transit every day, but by the time they get the item, the transit slip has worked its way down into the plastic to where they have to get in there and kind of dig it out. So I think that's the main issue, that they're having to spend a bunch of time separating that plastic from the paper and digging it out. My only concern actually would be sometimes our media cases are less than what they could be.
They don't close tightly. Is that what you're saying?
No.
And then the slip could come out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that is possibly my only concern with that.
And to my recollection, that's the reason why we switched to doing that and putting them inside of there, was because the slips were getting divorced from the item.
Anybody else want to chime in?
Yeah, there's Karen Jones saying that she thinks that the top can get ripped off if it's not stuck down inside.
Oh, stuck all the way down into the plastic.
Plastic, yeah.
Okay, so if I'm hearing everybody correctly, we want the consensus to still be that we go ahead and put it between the plastic and the paper at this point.
And I can see, if it's been melted because it's been in somebody's car and you aren't going to be able to get the plastic off the paper anyway, and then you're going to stick it in the box.
Right.
Because that'll be the only way to get it.
The only way to get it there. But
yeah,
if the media case is in good enough shape to put it inside that plastic, we're going to go ahead and do that.
Everybody messing me up. I'm just
Okay.
trying to.
Okay.
I know, but it's been good.
Okay. Any other discussion on that? Are we good to go on? Okay. The second thing is there's been a rash of transit slips going back and forth with patron visible information on it. And so Meredith had sent out a thing before, at least to me, saying that this probably happened when we moved to 3.8. So what she said is we lost global custom templates that are standardized. So Meredith, do you know more about this?
Sure. Yeah, we had way back several years ago, there was concern about having patron information on the slips that were transiting between branches. So we had Mobius put a global template on that had everybody with the same information on their transit slips. That last upgrade, we lost those global templates, and I believe Diane was in communication with Equinox about it. And basically, they kind of threw their hands up and said that if they would have to go and do it like one by one for each library to put the global templates back, that they didn't have the ability to just do it once and push it out to everyone. So then we shared the ability, I do it with the HTML to customize. There is a .json file for people that use Hatch. We don't use Hatch at my library, but someone else had shared that out as well.
Okay, so anybody, Meredith, would you be willing, if anybody needed that HTML, that they contact you?
Sure, yeah, I can hook them up, and I don't know if we think it's useful to put it on the website or whatever too. It's basically just text in a Word file to link to it.
Okay,
Then if we see a slip arriving from some library with patron information on it, we just contact that library and say, here's the template that you can change so that we don't have patron information there.
right. And they may not have even paid attention to it yet or realized that, you know, just in the basic workflow of the day,
Right.
not have even paid attention to it yet. So,
Yeah.
okay. I had a request for information on how to set limits on patron holds. Or if there's a way, obviously there's a way to suspend holds to where you could have more holds on your account, but they're not active holds. I do not, at Cass County, I'm not the one who has set up any of the settings, but I believe there's a way through local administration to do that. Is that correct?
I don't know.
That's
I would
my
have
same.
to.
That's my same understanding. We've changed our limits on patron holds locally at JCL over time, and suspending holds, we have it set so patrons can do it from the catalog, where if they're going to be on vacation or whatever, and then unsuspend it. And I think one of the more recent upgrades allows you to put a time limit on that, so they'll automatically unsuspend. But Karen Jones is on the call here too. She may have more detail on that front.
Karen, do you have more to add? A question was also brought up about, is there a way to do it through patron, I think it's called baskets on their side? And there is, but it's somewhat cumbersome. So if you are a library that wants to be able to teach your patrons how to put things in a list and then later put them on hold, contact me and I can give you the information on how that works. So my other suggestion would be, if you do not know how to go in under local administration, Equinox support should be able to help you make a change if you want to change the number of holds that your patrons could have on at one time.
Did I hear someone say that they think there's a way that suspended holds can be automatically, it's like it's going to be suspended for 3 months and then it's automatically going to be active?
That was me, Meredith. I had a vague recollection that maybe came in one of the later updates, but maybe it was just a dream I had. It wasn't real.
Maybe it's on a wish list somewhere. Yeah, I never heard that, but I don't hear everything.
So you can set the date that you want it to end. I have not heard if there's like a default type thing, but it would be interesting to find out.
Oh yeah, Karen is saying when you suspend a hold, you can choose a date for it to become active.
Right.
Yeah, that's true.
Yay, I'm not crazy. Woohoo.
I thought somebody was saying that if it's been inactive for 3 months or 5 months, then it's just going to be turned active, whether you want it to or not.
No, it remains inactive. The documentation is pretty clear on that. It remains inactive until that activity date is set, and otherwise it just stays inactive.
Right. Okay. On to number D, or letter D. There was a question about how to get inventory dates on your items. So Evergreen provides two different options for adding an inventory date. One is through the check-in interface and one is through the item status screen. So through the check-in screen, it contains a check-in modifier called update inventory. Those check-in modifiers are on the right side of the screen. It's a drop-down. I think update inventory is the very bottom one. So as you are checking in your items, it will automatically record an inventory date. So I know Cass County has used that when we are trying to catch those last ones. We've done other inventory, but we're trying to catch those last ones that have been checked out and weren't there when we did the inventory. So that's a pretty useful one. The other way to do it is through the item status screen. There's an action drop down. You can go to update inventory. So after you have scanned, or you could upload a file, the barcodes of the ones you want to update, and then you would select that update inventory and it will do it more like as a batch. I'm not sure if there's a limit to the number that you can do at one time. I've not ever used that method before, but you can certainly do groups of them together, not necessarily one by one. Questions on that? Okay, moving on to E. Just wanted to send out a reminder to any reciprocal borrowing library that reciprocal borrowing privileges are valid while the borrower's home card is active and in good standing. So please encourage, if a patron comes in and wants to use, for me, it would be want to use a Cass County card at your library. If they are not in good standing, encourage them to talk to their home library and get that situation worked out before you go ahead and override and check out or do anything like that. They need to be in good standing. Send them back to their home library. I know none of us like to say no to our patrons. We're kind of hardwired to try to do everything we can to give them good service, but this would be one of those cases that you would need to say, no, I'm sorry. The last thing on number F, Mickey has asked us, the circulation committee, to come up with a training video or a training document that we could have on the website for check-in modifiers. So people on the committee, or here's the deal, I've never made a video. So if there's somebody on the committee that has and would be willing to take the lead, I'm willing to help. Even if there's somebody on this call who's really good at making a DVD, we'd be more than happy to work with you, but I need a committee from the committee to begin working on this. And you guys all are volunteering at the same time. Okay, well, having heard no names or nobody speak up or seeing anything in the chat, I will probably be reaching out to you, people on the committee, so that we can kind of get moving on this. All right.
Did you by any chance check to see if Equinox already has something on there?
I looked at a while ago, Mickey sent out the I don't know what you would call it. It basically tells you how everything works in 3.8. And there is a description of what those check-in modifiers are, but I don't even know what, even though I read the description, I wasn't sure about what some of them really meant.
Me either. I don't know what some of that stuff is. It's functions that I know that Scenic doesn't do because we don't use them. But I know Equinox has a YouTube channel and they do share some of their training.
Okay, I'll check
But-
in with them.
Yeah, but a lot of that is 2 hours of meetings kind of thing, not just one feature.
Yeah. The reason I asked Rhonda to see if the committee could address this is I monitor the ticket flow for all of Missouri Evergreen, and I'm seeing there's more and more interest or call for, I think is the right way to put it, certain modifiers or check-in modifiers because of the functionality of those. And there is a pretty good list of what they do, but as you said, Diane, very few people actually use them or use them to their in the best way possible so that you can get the most out of them. So I think something that would be at least a guideline or something simple that would give our member libraries a starting point to understand check-in modifiers and how they can benefit from them. That's really what I was hoping the committee could work up.
Okay, so I will check with Equinox to see what they have in addition to what I have seen, and then we will try to go from there.
Fair enough.
Okay. I noticed that I just kind of blew right by all the public comments. Is there anybody on this call who has something that they would like to bring up?
It may be germane under the claims returned with it. I was playing with things and I probably shouldn't have been, where with a patron that I was pretty sure was feed me a fish story about lost materials. And I know how the claims returned function works, but there is also a claims checked in action item that is a choice under there. And in the course of that, it takes the item off the person's record, it changes it to missing automatically if you do that. But in the documentation that I saw online, it made it sound like somewhere in the patron record, there should be a counter that says number of times claims never checked out, but I couldn't find that counter on our people. And I didn't know if anybody else had experience seeing that.
So Meredith, what was it called again?
Basically, I think it's claims never checked out. It's something like that.
Is that in the edits, the edit page? Claims that never checked
when
out?
you look at the person who has the items checked out, it's if you right click on the item, it gives you the choices. And one of the items is claims returned and one of them is claims never checked out.
Yeah, doesn't that try to navigate around the screen?
I
Doesn't
think you might have to go into, Diane, go into, you know, like everything that you could see.
Oh, maybe the field just isn't there.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll dig a little further with it. Thank you.
All right, anything else? Okay, just updates on some of the things we talked about last month. The claims return count issue, I spoke with Equinox, and that is a global setting for everybody in the whole consortium. So in order to make any kind of change, we would need to get a consensus of how we want claims returns to be used. So basically it's, do we want the actual count that they have on their account at that moment, or do we want to keep a record of the number of items that a patron has ever claims returned? So it seems like we would have to get some kind of consensus between the member libraries of which way we would want to go. And then either change it or leave it as is. Currently, it is set up to track the number that has ever been marked claims returned. And so that's why you get the difference between what you see on the left-hand screen, which is the count of what it is right now, and then the internal when you go into that when you're in edit and you can see everything that's possible, that would be the count that they have ever done. So I guess what I'd like to do is perhaps poll the libraries and see which way they would prefer for it to be. And if everyone is happy with it the way it is, then we just need to know that if your library wants to do it differently, you would need to go in there and manually change that one number. So I'm going to probably be polling everybody in this month, just so that we know or get a consensus of which way we prefer it to go. And then I'll report back next month. And then the other thing.
I think, Rhonda, I think the executive board would rather that the committee come up with a recommendation and take the recommendation to the membership.
Okay,
So if we would like it to be one particular way, then we could take that to the membership at a membership meeting and have everybody vote on it then. You know, we tell them ahead of time so they have time to think about it, so we don't just
Right.
spring it on them.
right.
Because we don't use claims return, but as everyone knows, I have an opinion anyway. I would rather see the total number of claims returned claims returned. But I should probably just keep my mouth shut. And those of you who use it, say what you would like it to see.
Okay.
I think
So-
there's
Go
two
ahead.
two logics with it. I think
Right.
I think maybe it's the timing of when you designate something as claim returned. If you designate the something as claims returned immediately when the patron says, I can't find it, and you've just initiated your process of looking in your library and them looking in their home library, the likelihood of it being found is high. So then that's when you want that count to be accurate, because you don't want to unnecessarily penalize the person for like, oh no, it was under the sofa, or we found it misshelved in the library. But if you're doing the claims returned at the end of the process, when you've exhausted all of your in-house whatevers that you're doing, then you want to have that account for that history and for the abuse. So I think depending on the workflow in the library, we might be having two different conversations on how they use it.
All right, so let me ask the committee, do you think it's worth me finding out what most libraries would prefer and then reporting back to you so we could decide a policy, or do you want just the committee to consider it right now and decide which we want?
Well, that's a very thorny question for a number of reasons. And it's a philosophical debate that I think has been raging for 10 years in Missouri Evergreen and will continue to rage. But I tend to agree with Diane in the sense that, in order for us to get closer to a decision point, it's much easier if our designated committees, which are staffed with wonderful librarians who work with this every day, if they can come up with a recommendation, whether it's based on poll numbers or whether it's based on their personal expertise or whether it's based on some combination of those things, I believe it's best for the committee itself to come to the executive board with a recommendation.
All right, so committee, I will be contacting you through email, and we will come to consensus so that we can present it to the executive committee. All right, so the very last thing that I had was the link to how to spot fake DVDs has now been put up on the Missouri Evergreen website. It can be found under the member resources tab under both the cataloging and circulation training materials. So thank you for that suggestion, and Ron was happy to go ahead and put that on for us. Okay, is there anything else that anybody would like to bring before the committee?
Just for your knowledge, Rhonda, I did put in the chat the link to the Georgia Pines documentation about the check-in modifiers. It
Okay,
may be similar to what you already found, but I have found their stuff useful as like a thing to just have and then be able to modify it to our needs.
thanks. That's wonderful.
Rhonda, this is just not directly related to this committee's work, but I think you all should know that the executive board has hired a new consortium cataloger who will begin on September 1st. Her name is Elizabeth Rudloff, and some of you may know Liz when she was the director at the St. Genevieve Public Library before Sean. Liz has been at CMO and has been in the academic library world for a while, but she's coming back to us as our full-time consortium cataloger beginning September 1st.
Yay. So we look forward to working with her and keeping the catalog as clean as we possibly can. I'm just glad they do that. I don't want to have anything to do with that whole side of things. Takes it a
One other-
wonderful breed of person there.
One other stray thing, if anyone is attending the MLA conference in Springfield, there will be 2 Evergreen sponsored sessions there. One will be on transitioning libraries that don't have cataloged collections, like we did with the library whose name is escaping out of my brain right now, fairly recently. And then we'll have our standard, we're evergreen, we're fabulous, we're wonderful. You want to join us, don't you? So if you see that one on the schedule and you have the time, please come into the room. Your input is valuable for when other libraries see how successful and happy people are with it. It's great to have those voices in the room as well.
Thank you very much, Meredith, for explaining that. The 2 sessions are on Friday. There's been a quick conference schedule that's been published. If you haven't seen it, holler at me. I'll send it to you, forward it to you. It came out from Missouri Library Association, so you can get a look at all the conference schedule there.
Something else, speaking of creating videos, there have been a couple comments, questions in the on the listservs recently about training new staff, having refresher training, that kind of thing. And we get all the training from Equinox when a library migrates. But then when you hire new staff, there are questions about how to train those people. Megan Maurer, the Scenic Assistant Director, and I are going to do a session at the conference about training new staff. But then I wonder, you know, and I shared my training materials with the library this past week. A lot of that stuff is, well, I don't know a lot. I haven't done a percentage study. How much of it is specific only to Scenic and how much would be actually useful to other libraries? You know, and Steve was talking yesterday about recording one of our training sessions just to share with other libraries. I don't know. Is there a feeling if any of that kind of thing would be helpful? In the annual refresher trainings that we do for our circulation staff, some of that is Evergreen and some of it is Scenic.
I don't know, Diane, I can only speak from my experience when we came into Evergreen, because Dan Brower, our library director, was a former Scenic employee. We had access to your circulation manual, I guess. And so I read through all of that before Cass County came into it. And then we adjusted a few things for how Cass County wanted flow to go. But I found it very helpful in addition to what Evergreen, well, at that time it was Mobius or
Yeah.
did, because it just, at least the training when Cass County came in, it was a whole day of just information. And I was in overload by the time I got done with the day. And having a written thing, I personally found very helpful to then go back and be able to test it on our test, our little test server that we had before we went live. So I don't know what anybody else thinks, but.
And I think our procedure manual is still on the on the Missouri Evergreen website.
I'm not sure.
Because I'm perfectly willing to make a recording, and we have circulation refresher training next month where all of our circulation staff come in and we have fun and talk about all sorts of things. And I would be willing to sit in my office and record all that because I don't think it's going to work to set up a recording in the room with 20 people and try to hear everybody.
Right. Well, I say Meredith, I mean, Diane, if you're willing to do it, I think that would be great.
Okay.
All right, anything else? All right, having not heard anything, we are going to adjourn for today. I hope everybody has a great day and actually a great week. So.
Thanks, Rhonda.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you, Rhonda. Bye-bye.
Bye.